Stop lying to yourself. We often make excuses for the things that we haven't accomplished yet. The goals that we have, our wildest dreams, the things that we've imagined that we could do, that we could be, we make excuses for them because we say, I can't do it because I wasn't talented, and I'm not talented enough, I wasn't born with it, I don't have what it takes. Well, I came to tell you today that you are lying to yourself. So I told you guys, like, I'm back to being sort of like a solo entrepreneur of some sort, and it's actually been pretty rewarding, to kind of have the space to really think about how I want to show up in the world and the type of things that I want to accomplish. I've loved not having to create for the sake of creating, or I've loved not having to do things for likes or views or things of that nature, although I'm here on YouTube and hopefully that happens. But I'm really coming from an authentic place, really just like, who am I? What do I have to share? What do I have to offer to the world? Things that I really care about. And I've found that in the past, if I sit down to try to do something, to try to accomplish something, and I don't feel inspired, I would say, well, I guess if I'm not inspired, then I can't do it, right? Like, now is not the time to create this content. Now is not the time to do the thing that I found hard and challenging at the time. It could have been for my career or my personal life or whatever. And I realized that it was a form of procrastination. I would procrastinate it and I would just do all the other things, and I would say, well, when I'm inspired, then I'll do it. But I really just found out that that's complete BS. I picked up this book from Rick Rubin called The Creative Act. And this book actually really has helped me through a roadblock where the way that I looked at creativity was completely different. I thought that it had to come through inspiration. And while creativity does come through inspiration, you don't have to be just inherently talented, born with it, to be able to be a creative, right? And I was in this process of rethinking my creativity. I also listened to a podcast with Seth Godin, and he was talking about something similar, basically saying that, for example, Michael Jordan, right? He is clearly talented at the sport of basketball. And although he's talented at the sport of basketball and he's the greatest, right? Arguably, he is not the only one that can play a good game, right? For instance, we know Kobe Bryant, was also legendary when it comes to basketball, but he was known for working hard. Like, he really, really worked hard at his game. So because he worked hard at his game, he was essentially undefeated in a sense in terms of his work ethic, and that made him an exceptional basketball player. So the thing about it is, although there are some people who are talented at certain things, that yes, they were born with an inherent edge at the thing, we all can do similar feats if we work hard at it, if we really put in the work and create the space and the time for the thing to happen. So talent can be something of a, misnomer, or it's something that like is confusing that people will use as an excuse. Like, if I wasn't born with this talent, then I just don't have it. So I want to get into the 5 things that I learned from this book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. You should definitely pick it up. It's not just for individuals who are looking to do something creative in terms of art, but we're all creating every day. You're creating on your job, you're creating at home, you're creating, in your mind, you're creating, and everything we do is somehow, some way we're creating. And it really helped to break down that entire process and to help you sort of understand the things that you're going through, the feelings and the emotions and the things that you're going through. And it really helped normalize that. I've never heard creativity broken down in this way, because it always seemed like something that, like I said, was like, inspired by God. And while I do still believe that to a certain degree, it is inspired by God. And the book does kind of talk about how you're allowing like inspiration to come through you. I don't want to give it all up. Let's get to the 5 things. All right. So the first thing is that there are no shortcuts. And this is not something that was new to me. I've said it many times in the past. I don't know where I first heard it from, but I've said this over and over through the years. And I've also learned it myself, right? That there are no shortcuts to things. We have to take the time to allow for the process, right? The process is not just the goal is not just the destination, but the process is where you actually get built up, where you build muscle, where, things really, the magic actually happens, right? And so I wanted to give you this analogy that, for instance, you can make fried chicken, for example. One of the things that I find so tedious to make, you can make fried chicken really quick, right? You can go to the store, you can buy the chicken, you can season the chicken, you can coat the chicken, and then you can fry it and it'll be ready. Now, is it going to be amazing? Probably not, because that is not the process for fried chicken, right? It sounds good. I mean, you can get to the end goal, but you missed a lot in the beginning. You missed a marinating stage, right? So you can also do fried chicken where you go to the store, you buy the fried chicken, you marinate that fried chicken, you season it up, you let it sit for a couple hours or overnight, right? To let it really absorb and marinate and really, go through its process of being one with the seasoning. Then you can coat it. And then one trick that I learned recently is putting it in the air fryer and then frying it after that. Right? There's a bunch of different ways that you could do it, but really that marinating process is key. There is no recipe that I've seen for fried chicken that's amazing that does not require that marinating stage, right? We can do things quickly. We can get to the end, but it's not going to be as great as a person that really took their time and actually went through the process of what it actually takes to be good at that thing, to pay attention to those details. So I say that to say that there are no shortcuts, right? Shortcuts are long cuts. They really make things go longer. Why? So in the past 11 years of running my business, there were so many times that I wanted things to happen yesterday. I'm the type of person no, I need things to happen yesterday. If I come with the idea, I want it done in 24 hours. Now, that's not realistic, but there were certain times that's how I operated, and sometimes it worked for me and sometimes it was great, but there were other times that it caused me to have to start over, or it caused me to have to scrap things that we put a lot of energy and money into because it just wasn't fully thought out, right? And so this book talks about allowing the creative process to fully cook, right? To allow the creative process to really fully happen, really sitting and creating a space for that creativity to come through, whether it be brainstorming, throwing around ideas, playing around with different ways that things can kind of work, but just also giving that time for you to fully think things out and for you to fully try and fail and start over and, not just run with your first draft, but to do a second draft and a third draft. These are the things that we need to do when it comes to creativity. For instance, with Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, they both were always fine-tuning. They never thought of their, even though they were creative and they were talented at what they were doing, they never thought of it as being done. They were never done practicing. They were never done, working at their craft. They were always working at it, always fine-tuning, always finding a better way, a new edge, always learning themselves within the process and how they can adjust and adapt within the thing that they were doing. So there are no shortcuts. And that brings me to number 2. Be patient. You're going to start to see a pattern with some of these things that we're going through, these tips, but I'll see how you catch on to yourself. So a lot of these things are about slowing down, controlling ourselves and having less resistance to what is. So what he says about impatience is that impatience is a fight with reality. So he actually uses the word argument when he's saying you're having an argument with what's reality if you are being impatient. And we really can't control what reality is. We can't speed up the process, with things. Things got to take the time that they take. That reminded me of this movie, My Cousin Vinny, where they were trying to, prove that they were innocent, and it's a really quirky lawyer who's doing things outside of the box, really, right? And so he tells someone, he's interviewing a witness, and he's the guy's it takes about 5 minutes to cook grits on his stove. And the punchline is that for everybody in the world, grits takes 20 minutes if you're doing, if you're not doing quick, fast, instant grits, right? It takes 20 minutes. So what makes you think that, how are we to believe as the audience or the jury that on your stove it only takes 5 minutes? So what I mean by that is it's going to take how long it's going to take. Whatever it's needed. You cannot rush the process. You have to, go with the flow of things. So being patient will allow us to not resist the present moment and allow us to really let the things that we are trying to create be fully imagined, fully developed. I hope that was clear. So anyways, let's get to the third one. So the third one is to pay attention and fine tune. It's basically, he calls it tuning in. And he says, imagine what life could be if we use the same precision with our lives in the things that we're doing. If we use the same precision, the same attention that would be required to land a plane. Right? When you're landing a plane, if you're landing a plane, or you can imagine if you've been in a plane, that it takes extreme precision to let those wheels lightly touch the ground before all that tons of weight hits and hits the ground running, right? Super, a lot of training, a lot of talent, a lot of precision with that. And so imagine what we could do if we use that much precision in the things that we're doing. The little moments in life would impact us much more. We would really pick up on the little clues and the little nudges that life is giving us, the little whispers that come in in these little moments if we're not rushing around. I'm sure you've experienced where you're like driving somewhere or you're traveling somewhere, whatever it is, and you've done it so mindlessly that by the time you get there, you're like, how did I even get here? I didn't even remember making the turns and, getting on the exit and off the exits and stuff. It was just like total tunnel vision. But there may have been clues, there may have been things that would have solved your problems that might have come through you if you were being more present in the moment, right? Tuning in, fine tuning into the thing. And so I've had that issue with creating, doing creative projects where I kind of just want to get it done. Like I told you, I want things done yesterday, and I don't like to spend the time, that resistance, that uncomfortable space where you're kind of just like waiting. But he's saying like with creativity, how the most talented people, and if you don't know who Rick Rubin is, the author, you should Google him. He's worked with so many great and talented people. So he kind of understands this creative process, like, what it really takes and what people actually go through during the process of creating. And so getting to the nitty gritty is a part of, it's normal, right? It's a normal part of the thing. It doesn't mean it's not coming. It doesn't mean it's not evolving. It doesn't mean that you are wasting your time and you're not doing anything. It's working, you know what I mean? Just give the space and pay attention to the little moments in life. I always think about when you have a problem or an issue and you're trying to work through it, and you've tried everything, you've looked high and low, you've tapped into people who whatever the case is, and you haven't thought about a way to solve it. And then all of a sudden you get this like aha and epiphany, and it's just like, oh my God, it was like right there in front of me this whole time. My solution, it's so easy, right? That happened to me so many times in the past, and it continues to happen to me. And I know that, slowing down and giving space is usually when I get those moments of aha, those moments of resolution in my life. So take the time to fine tune. Number 4 is habits. Habits are really important, and I did not think that habits can help you when it comes to creativity. So what he talks about here in about habits is about creating a routine, making the things in life that help you to find and tap into that creativity, that creative space, will help you get to it faster, essentially, right? So say it's waking up in the morning, having your breakfast, taking your shower, working out, meditating, journaling, reading, all those things. If you're doing, that's my morning routine. So if you're doing those things every single day, you put the right amount of time in to accomplish each thing, and then you block out your creative time. So say I'm going to do, my creative stuff, whether it be work, you're building a business, you're trying to get better at your job, you're trying to actually create something creative, some sort of art or whatever, you're blocking out that time. So from 11 to 2, I am going to work on this thing. And then outside of that time is where you have your structure with, he says, like extreme precision, right? You're going to have your structure outside of that, but within that, you're going to have the freedom to play and to create, and you're going to be able to sit in silence if you need to, or you'll put on whatever music or whatever you need to help you get to that moment of, you know, accomplishing that creative act. But habits can help with it. And I thought, again, like, this is just something you're gifted with. This is just something that comes through, you know, but if we don't make space for it, we're all creative beings, right? I say this, I've said this before, where we're the only species that are able to speak. So because we're able to speak, we are able to create, right? Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So we're able to create. So that means that we're always creating. We're all creative beings. We just need to cultivate and give space to that creativity to come through, right? So habits can help us with that. And number 5 is failure. Failure is okay. Failure gives you the opportunity to learn new things. Failure gives you the information that you may need to actually get to the success of the thing. And I love that, you know, you've probably heard that before as well. Like, you know, failure leaves clues, and it allows you to, you know, fail fast so that you can get through all the drafts that didn't work, so that you can finally get to the draft that actually did work, right? And another thing that I love is about switching it up and being outside of the box. So disruptors are about doing things that no one has done in a way that no one has done, no one has imagined, because it's completely out of the box of how things are done. So we all need to be disruptors when you are trying to do something new or just something great in your, you know, by your own measure. You can't always do it by the measure of how people have always done it. There's a Jay-Z lyric that I love that he says, I can't, now I'm gonna have to look it up because I don't know. I can't base what I am off of what everybody isn't, right? I might have, you know, messed up the words a little bit, but I can't measure what I am based off of what everybody isn't, right? There was never a Jay-Z before Jay-Z. So you have to try new things. You have to be crazy and radical in order to really make impact in a way that maybe you want to make impact, or just the way that the world needs, right? We all are needed for whatever space that we're supposed to be in. So if we're like too boxed in, if we're playing it too small, playing it too little, coloring inside the lines a bit too much, we're never going to get to where we needed to be. Where would we have been without the crazy radical thinking of the internet, or the crazy radical thing of YouTube, or the crazy radical, you know, thinking that social media could be successful and it could actually work and that could actually help people. You know, there's always going to be bad mixed in with the good, but, you know, we can each accomplish everything that we want to accomplish. We have the tools, right? And there is a process and there is a method. So I pray that these things were helpful to you. These were the 5 things that I got that were most impactful, but there is so much more. If you want to pick up the book, I get nothing for it. I'm just trying to help you, you know, with what helps me. So leave a comment. Let me know what was the most impactful thing for you. And if this was helpful at all, I'd love to hear it and further this conversation. I appreciate you guys for listening. Check the description. You can get a copy of my book, You're Richer Than You Think, if it's something that you're interested in. And that's it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for helping me be on purpose. And I'll see you next time.